What's going on, everybody? It is your man Cleveland Terry, and I hope you guys are dealing with the quarantine just as well as I am. If you're anything like me, you're just literally just chomping at the bit trying to figure out how to stay productive. As you can see, I've been making a whole bunch of videos trying to just keep my mind going, focus on improving my craft, focus on the family, focus on my health, just staying healthy, trying to work out a little more, just doing the things that we should all be doing in this kind of dead time. I mean, some people are able to work. I'm not able to work. I'm able to answer emails and answer phone calls, and every single email and every single phone call has been a postponement. But besides that, you know, there's a lot of free time on our hands. So I'm using that to try to improve myself. But during the course of me making several videos, I've had a couple of questions that have happened, and I wanted to spend a little time talking about that. And a lot of it has been based upon how I record my DJ sets. So we're gonna talk about that right now. So before we move over to the other side, we're gonna talk about the studio. Now, I shoot in my studio, which is one of the bedrooms that I have allocated to myself. And there are three different ways that I can shoot videos. One is here, which is at the main desk with the, the turntable and the picture and all of that, where I do kind of my news reports and kind of my thoughts videos. They all kind of happen here. By the way, a lot of people have asked about where I get my pictures from. Now, I have an Amazon affiliates link that I'm gonna post right in the detailed description here, where it shows all the places that I get my gear. So everything we're gonna talk about, there is an Amazon link. If you're interested in purchasing it, click through my link. Even though it's not a lot of money, it does help me by you just clicking on that link. If you're gonna buy it anyway, that would help me out. Okay, so we shoot from this angle right here. Now, if we turn around, turn around here, and actually I'm gonna take this guy off right here. Now, as we turn around here, I have two different areas that I actually work in. So on this side right here, this is where my turntables normally go, which is this guy right here. I slide this over, and then this table right here, this longer table, is typically what sits here where I do all my product reviews. All of this stuff always stays on the table. This one remains open. I used to have the one table where I would literally just move my turntables off every time I wanted to do a different type of video or a different location, and it was just too much work. So I just bought a table. Now that stays over. When I'm not doing my DJ stuff, which obviously right now I'm doing a lot of, I just grab it, I slide it out, I slide it right over to there, and then I move this table in. Now, I use a couple of different light sources. In the past, I used to have one big kind of rectangular box with, it was a floodlight that just hit everything. I then upgraded to these light panels right here. And as you can see, I have one here and I have one right here on this side. They are really cool. They're made by Viltrox. They're actually dimmable. I can go over here and I can just dim or brighten however I want. That way I can get a little more custom look from either side. So maybe on one panel, I have kind of a fill light, and then the other one I have a key light to kind of just soften up the face a little more. You can run them two different ways. You can run them via a cord, or you can run them via the battery power here. So I do both of them. I tend to prefer to have the battery powered because that just means less cords on the floor. And plus, when I'm moving things around, I don't have to worry about where I'm plugging them in. So we do that. Now, my review setup is actually this area right here. As you can see up here, I have an overhead camera that shoots directly onto the product and or my turntables. I then have a couple of older LED PARs, the flat tri-PARs from American DJ, here and here. Change the color when I want to get a little bit different feel. On this particular camera, we're using a Panasonic Lumix G7, and on my main camera, we're using the Panasonic G9. Not to be confused with the G7, the G9 is a totally different beast. The G9 is basically the photography version of the GH5. The G7 is the one I started with, and it got me through a lot of things. It's a great camera. It's super cheap. It's like 400 bucks. You can get them on like Craigslist sometimes for like 350, and it's a great camera. The only thing it doesn't have, which this one does have, is image stabilization. So you have to get a lens that has image stabilization in order to smooth it out a little bit. This has it in the body, and so the lens I use, it's not even stabilized, but because it's so good, I never even think about it. So this one, I'm using a 12 to 35 lens that shoots down, allows me to zoom in, zoom out to get a better feel for whatever product I'm using. I also switch between that one and the 8 to 18 Leica, which gives me an even bigger view. I don't use that one too often because it's very wide. This little handle right here is, I believe, a Manfrotto handle that I've jerry-rigged with two pieces. This is actually two different things that I had to use in order to make this overhead. And then this guy, this is just like a photo setup. I don't use a battery in this one, so I bought the little battery kit that goes in here and it feeds it all the way down, and it just remains plugged in online all the time. The actual frames here, I've got this one and this one, both from Amazon. They come in multiple sizes. I got this picture a long time ago back in San Francisco, and I've always loved it. It reminded me of good times, and I love it. So back to this one. So both of these are, actually this is the larger one, this is the medium one. As you can see, it's a little smaller. This fills in a lot more area. And then, let's see what else. I use my Yamaha speakers, which I love. There's the Ableton Push right here, the Push 2.0. And I have several GoPros, which I don't really use too often. Got this Cross Tour one, which I have to test at some point. Maybe when I actually leave the house at any point. And then just some of the stuff that I've purchased over time, like the Newmark, PTO1, the Phases, and the Pioneer stuff. Just a little bit, just to kind of spice up the room a little bit. Now, the other thing that people have asked about is how I get my overlays to work properly, how I get them on my videos. Now, you have to do a couple of different things here, and I will show you what I'm talking about. So on here, it's actually very simple. I use a Mac, so I'm only talking about people that use Macs. If you use a PC, you're out of luck. I don't know how to do it on the PC. On the Mac, it's super simple. All you have to do is go to your QuickTime app. Now, if you right click, two-finger click on a MacBook, you're gonna have a couple of options here. Now you have new movie recording, new audio recording, and new screen recording. Screen recording is what we're gonna use. So we're gonna click on screen recording, and then a little box is gonna pop up. Now this box is wherever you think you're gonna record. If you're not gonna use a box, then you just click it off and just hit record. But this is on the new Catalina, so it's gonna be a little different than yours, but normally speaking, it's a box will cover up the entire thing, and then you decide where you're gonna do it. So we are going to just move this like so to there, and then we are going to take this like so to say here, and once you've done it, you just hit record, and now you're recording. You can still do all the things you normally do, and it's going to record just fine. Then when you're done, as you can see on the touch bar, it actually shows right here how much space you're taking up, because it does take up a lot of space the longer you're on there. I mean, typically when I'm done recording, it's like 10 gigs of video stuff. So then after that, you hit stop or you exit out, and then it's gonna create the video. You see it says screen recording there. You can save it right here, and then just save it to whatever you wanna call it. Test, save it. Now it's test, and now that video is there. Okay, so that's the first thing. So the overhead video works really well. It's all about timing, okay? So you have to time the videos. So when I hit record on there, I hit record on my main camera, and if I'm recording audio from like the DJ booth instead of just the speakers, then I will record the internal mix of Serato. Okay, so once I do that, then I make sure that there's, like I said, there's a microphone here. Even if I wasn't using this, there's an internal microphone in the camera, there's an internal microphone in there. Try to make them as close as possible, but it really doesn't matter because of the next thing that I'm gonna use. So once I hit record, start playing, do all my stuff, it's everything that we're using is recording an audio feed. So that's really important. So this is recording audio, this camera right here is recording audio, and the mix is recording audio. After all that, hit save, we're done. Then I take it all to the computer. So let's go to the computer. So now once I have the video, the audio, the overhead, and then the recording, I pull them all together. Now I use Final Cut Pro. What you use is probably gonna work the same way if you're using like Adobe Premiere. I don't know about iMovie, but I'm talking about just the main ones. I pull them in and then I rename them however the camera works. So say for instance, if it's for the actual, like for the tambourine, I did 2 different cuts. I did one that was the tutorial and then the other one which was the performance. So I have them both broken out. So on the lesson, which is the tutorial, I have it named. So I will select this guy. I will select the lesson overhead. And then if there's any audio to go along with it, which is like say this tambourine audio, I will select that one too. Then I right click and now we have the option to synchronize clips. Now, when you synchronize the clips, it takes the audio from all 3 of the videos and then puts them together. So it puts them in sync, hence the word sync. So you don't have to try to, manually adjust it to get it perfectly. And it does it really, really well. And so I do that, and then it basically, after you have synced those 3 things, it brings them all into one main file. So if I double click on this timeline, you'll see I have, it's actually nested, so it's a little bit more complicated. And I'll tell you why it's more complicated next. I'm gonna double click on this one. This is the main one. So the main one has both my overhead and my lesson. So as you see here, I'm gonna bring up the opacity here. I got my overhead. Confused. On this particular album, if I take it off, on this one, I have my main one.
If you listen to this,
now you can hear the difference in the sound.
it's literally going
Because it's taking them from different audio sources. The overhead microphone is literally like right above me. And then I have my wireless microphones that will sit right by the turntable. Actually, you can see them right here. So once those are synced up, then I have to kind of play around with the overhead feed, meaning I got to kind of cut it up and show you when I want to show the overhead versus when I want to show me up front. So that's all that is, and that's just me playing with it, trying to get the perfect feel for what I think is right for the flow of the video. The hardest part comes from the actual overlay. So let's get to that. Now, the problem with the overlay is there's no sound with it. So you can't just sync up the sound the way you would on the other ones. You actually have to manually adjust it and get it to line up exactly where you want it to go. That's very, very hard when there's no sound. So you're literally looking for visual cues to put the music where it's supposed to go and the visuals. One trick that I've done is, because typically speaking, when you hit record, you're probably not gonna hit record at the same time with everything. And usually speaking, the computer recording is either you've done first or you've done last. But if you do it from the end, like say you finally got the right recording, the right set done, and then you stop them, well, you can actually take the final visuals and then line it up from the end and then back it up that way. I found that makes it the easiest. It's never easy though, it's always hard. So after you've done that, then you're good. Then you have to just start to mess around with the overlay, how it's gonna be, the visuals. I have made mine a little more transparent, and it's actually not a hard process at all. Basically, once I get the overlay where I want it in Final Cut, I literally just drop the opacity. See, this is 100%. I dropped it down to 92. I mean, that's pretty much it. It's very, very simple. You know, once you get it to where you want. It's hard and easy at the same time. Once you get everything lined up, then it's pretty easy. There's just a little more work with just kind of cutting up the shots. When am I gonna do my overhead versus when am I gonna do, you know, my main camera, and when am I gonna show the overlay? Do I want it on the whole time? There's just a little more work, and that's where it's very tedious work. So the recording might have taken a minute to do, but the cutting it up and getting everything lined up, that's hours of work, getting that to be where you want it to be. So I've created several compound clips to try to make it the way I want it. Now, compound clips, all that stuff, completely different tutorial. We're only talking about the basics. If you want those, feel free to throw them in the comments, and then if I have time, you know, I'll go from there. But once you have that, you have a lot more opportunities, but it's really just about getting the video the way you want it. Now, the way I just created just the top portion of the bar, I have to position it the way I want to. That positions that. If I go to the actual overlay and I go back to the X and Y, I can position it higher, I can position it lower, I can put it on the bottom, I can put it wherever I want to and set it up the way I want to. Now, if I had recorded the entire screen, like it's what I'm doing right now, I can always go back in and readjust it in Final Cut by using the crop tool. So because this one's already cut, I can't use that, but I can use this guy. So now I'm selecting this bottom layer, which is the layer beneath here. I'm gonna get rid of this for a second. And now I can actually crop this from the bottom, from the top, from the right, and from the left. Say for instance, you wanted to, for some reason, emphasize the middle buttons here. You can do that just by going like this. And then just cropping it all the way down. And the video is still gonna play the way it normally does, because you're just cropping the video in. See, there's my fingers, everything. Makes it really, really simple, guys. All right, well, that is my studio setup. I do studio work here. I do studio work at my office warehouse. The warehouse is where I actually started all my videos up until I was able to get this room to myself. I don't really do a lot of acoustic treatments just because I like the room to be as clean as possible. I do have some treatments up, but they're not like stapled to the walls or anything glued to the walls. I literally just have them up to kind of block some of that really, really big sound. But besides that, guys, that is pretty much it. I try to make it easy for me. I try to make it to where I can just quickly get videos going and then go from there. All right, guys, that's it. If you found what I said here useful, hit that like button. If you found what I said here really useful, hit that subscribe button. Coronavirus week 1 finally coming to a close. Guys, make sure you follow me on the Instagrams and the Twitters. I'm starting to put more content on Instagram, specifically on Instagram. And if you want to get in touch with me, the best way to get in touch with me is through direct message off Instagram or in the comments below. That's the ones I typically go to. I answer Twitter ones too. I'm trying to get better at that. Facebook, I definitely don't answer as quickly as I'd like to, just because I'm not getting my notifications, because I have more than one Facebook company profile. I have my Check121, I have that one, I got the normal Facebook, so it just takes up, it's really hard to kind of split through the messages that are coming through. Anyway, guys, always a pleasure. If I don't talk to you later, we'll talk soon. Peace.